History. A half century ago, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. fought for a living wage at the March on Washington, where 250,000 people, many black workers, demanded their rights. They called for $2 an hour. In today's dollars, it is the same number. Dr. King and his movement had launched the first Fight for 15 at the same time that they fought against the brutal racism of Jim Crow. We are following in their footsteps. With this vote, Seattle will become the first major city in the United States to win a $15 an hour minimum wage. Our victory comes less than 6 months after the launch of 15 Now, after the election of the first socialist to the city council in 100 years. We have built upon the work of labor in SeaTac on the growing movement of the fast food workers, which began in New York 1 year before. We have worked alongside organized labor in Seattle, who have campaigned continuously for 15. We forced the city establishment to lift the wages of 100,000 low-wage workers in Seattle, to transfer $3 billion from business to workers at the bottom of the wage scale over the next 10 years. We did it. Workers did this.
That's right. Yeah.
Today's first victory for 15 will inspire people all over the nation. We need to recognize what happened here in Seattle that led us to this point. 15 was not won, as we've often heard, at the bargaining table as the so-called sensible compromise between labor and business. It was not the result of the generosity of corporations or their Democratic Party representatives in government. What was voted on in the City Council, or what will be voted on, is a reflection of what workers and the labor movement have won on the streets over this last year. In 15 Now, groups of workers and activists met weekly, held mass conferences and debates, organized rallies, and engaged thousands of people around the city about the need for a living wage. We won the public debate. In a recent poll, 74% of voters now support 15. We defeated the arguments of business in the corporate media. Let this be our guide. At every stage of this struggle, corporations and their representatives have sought to undermine our efforts. And future victories will also depend on the organization, just like we've done here, of working people fighting for our interests. This is also why we need an alternative to the two parties representing business. Despite the Democratic Party posing as a progressive alternative to the Republicans, we can see in Seattle how it was only with the election of a socialist that the establishment was forced to pass real gains for workers. Right. We need many more independent and socialist candidates to turn the tide against corporate politics.
Yeah.
Is not complete, but we have fought until the last day, the last hour, against all the loopholes demanded by business. I thank the council members who have voted for my pro-worker amendments. We will come back to the questions of tip credit, the long phase-in, the training wage. What was lost through corporate loopholes, and it is a reminder to us that outcomes in social struggle are determined by the balance of forces. It is a reminder that we need to continue to build an even more powerful movement, a movement strong enough to overcome the counterattacks from business, a movement that goes on from 15 to win further gains to address the stunning income inequality workers face, that will fight for rent control, taxes on millionaires and big developers, and full funding for all public services.
Yeah.
I appeal to all workers to join the movement. The attempts of business to undermine 15 will continue well after this vote today. They may submit legal challenges, they may challenges at the ballot, they may wait for their moment to make make the temporary tip penalty permanent.
That's right.
But today's message is clear. If we organize as workers, as the labor movement, with a socialist strategy, we can tackle the chasm of income inequality and social injustice. 15 in Seattle is just a beginning. We have an entire world to win.